This might be the most important video you watch this year. Not for you, but for someone who quietly gave everything for you. Someone who never asked for much, except maybe a little time. You don't think about it until it's too late, not because you don't care, but because you're busy. Life pulls you in 100 directions, bills to pay, messages to answer, dreams to chase, and somewhere in the middle of all that noise, you forget that time is quietly slipping away. You forget how many stories they still haven't told, how many hugs you brushed off, how many questions you never thought to ask, how many times they sat quietly waiting for a visit that never came. Until one day, the phone doesn't ring, the chair is still, their voice, the one that once called your name with love, is gone. And suddenly you're left holding a silence that says everything you never got around to, a silence filled with, what if I just visited one more time? What if I'd listened longer? What if I'd told them how much they meant to me? This video isn't just for the elderly. It's for the sons who still have a father, the daughters who still have a mother, the grandchildren who still have a wise old soul waiting for a phone call. It's for you, a reminder and a tribute to the people who raised us, protected us, prayed for us, and now sit quietly hoping they're not forgotten. Before it's too late, let's listen. Let's talk about their hopes, their fears, the ones they rarely say out loud but feel deeply every single day. Let's not just scroll past this moment. Let's open our hearts and remember those who gave us theirs. Part 1, their hopes. What does an elderly heart hope for? You might think their dreams have faded, but in truth, they've only shifted. When youth is gone and ambition softens, what's left is something more honest, something far more human. Their hopes aren't loud, they don't shout, they whisper, gently like wind through leaves, if you're quiet enough to hear them. So what are their hopes? Number 1 on the list, to be remembered, truly remembered. They don't want to be remembered for being perfect or rich. They want to be remembered for how hard they tried, how they stayed up late so their children could sleep, how they worked 2 jobs, not because they wanted to, but because they had to, how they stitched together birthdays, scraped together school supplies, held the house together with worry in their eyes, but love in their hands. They hope you remember that they didn't always get it right, but they showed up. They kept going. They gave what they had. They loved fiercely, even if imperfectly. They stood in the rain so you wouldn't have to. They bit their tongues so you could find your voice. They don't need praise, just to know you saw the heart behind the effort, the love behind the mistakes, the strength behind the silence, the dignity in the struggle. Number 2, to feel loved without needing to ask. They've spent a lifetime caring for others, changing diapers, cooking meals, tending gardens, patching scraped knees, and listening to teenage tears. Now they sit in rooms that feel too quiet, hoping for a familiar voice. Not because they're needy, but because love, in the end, is what matters most. They feel the shift from beloved parent to responsibility, from family pillar to task on a checklist, from someone to cherish to someone to manage. Love to them is a visit that isn't rushed, a conversation that doesn't feel like an obligation, a hug that lingers, eye contact that says, I see you. They don't want fancy gifts. They want to feel like they still belong. They want to be remembered as someone whose love helped build everything you now stand on. They want to be loved not out of duty, but out of delight. Number 3, to keep their dignity and independence, even just a little. Getting older doesn't just change the body, it reshapes the way people see you. One day you're making decisions, the next decisions are being made for you, and slowly, piece by piece, the world stops asking what you want. Elderly people don't expect to climb mountains or run marathons. They know their strength has changed, but their hope, their quiet, persistent hope, is to still feel like they matter, like they can still choose what to wear, what to eat, whether to walk to the market or stay in bed. These little things, they don't seem like much until they're gone. Losing strength is one thing. Losing freedom, that's something else entirely. They hope to still feel useful, to still contribute, even if it's folding laundry, even if it's making tea. Because dignity doesn't come from what you can do, it comes from being trusted to try. You see, when we jump in to help too quickly, when we interrupt, take over, dismiss, we don't just rob them of a task, we rob them of dignity. And that kind of loss isn't visible, but it's felt deeply. Independence for them isn't about pride, it's about identity. It's about feeling like they're still a person, not just a patient. And when you let them try, when you give them room to fail with grace, instead of taking over out of impatience, what you're really giving them is respect. Their hope is simple. Let me keep what little strength I still have. Let me feel like me for a little while longer. And when the time comes that I can no longer do it myself, help me gently, not with pity, but with partnership. Because even at the end of life, no one wants to feel like they've already disappeared. And now we move on to number 4, to be at peace with their past and be forgiven where needed. By the time someone reaches old age, they live through a lifetime of choices, some good, some not so good. And while the world often sees wrinkles and gray hair, what's really underneath is a heart carrying decades of what-ifs. Our elders carry memories they've never shared, regrets they've tried to bury, mistakes they still wince at when no one is looking. They hope deeply that the people they love will see the whole picture, not just the parts that were broken. They hope to be seen, truly seen, not just for the roles they played, but for the journey they walked. The mother who yelled too much, maybe she was overwhelmed and didn't know how to ask for help. The father who was quiet and distant, maybe no one ever showed him how to be emotionally open. They weren't perfect, but they were trying with the tools they had. And now in the final chapters of life, they hope their children will look back, not with bitterness, but with understanding. They want peace, not just in their body, but in their memory. They also hope to be forgiven, not always with words, but with soft eyes, with a gentle tone, with the willingness to let go of what can't be changed. Because one of the heaviest weights an elderly person can carry is knowing they hurt someone they love and never got the chance to make it right. And here's the truth they rarely say out loud. They also hope to forgive themselves, to lay down the guilt, to stop replaying the same old memory that brings tears to their eyes. They hope that before the end, they can breathe deeply and say, I wasn't perfect, but I tried. I did what I could. I loved as best I knew how. They're not asking for applause. They're not asking to be remembered as heroes. They're simply hoping to be remembered as human, flawed, real, but filled with love and worthy of peace. Number 5, hope for the next generation even after they are gone. This is the last one we'll share in this video. Of course, there are many more hopes our elders carry, but these 5 are among the most essential. You might think the elderly have let go of the future, that their days are spent only looking back, but you'd be wrong, because deep in their hearts is a powerful, tender hope, not for themselves, but for you. They hope their children will live lighter, that their grandchildren will be braver, that the mistakes they made won't be repeated, that somehow, through all the years and all the struggle, they laid a foundation strong enough for you to build a better life. They hope you'll choose love over anger, presence over possessions, health over hustle. They've seen what happens when families fall apart, when money replaces memories, when people chase success but lose their soul. So, even as their bodies slow down, their hearts remain anchored in your tomorrow. They may never see the full fruit of the seeds they planted, but they hope with everything in them that those seeds will grow, that the lessons they whispered, the sacrifices they made, the quiet love they gave will echo forward through generations. They won't ask you to make them proud, but they do hope that when you face a hard decision or a moment of doubt, you'll remember what they taught you, not with a lecture, but with the way they lived. And in that moment, they'll still be guiding you, even from beyond the veil of time. That's what legacy truly is. Not money, not medals, but the love and wisdom that lives on in the hearts they've touched. So ask yourself, when was the last time you really looked at them, not just saw their face, but saw the person behind the age? What story haven't you heard? What moment haven't you shared? And what love haven't you said out loud yet? Part 2, their fears. For all their strength, for all the battles they've won and the storms they've weathered, our elders still carry fears, but they don't always speak them because they've learned how to smile through pain. They've learned how to suffer quietly. And so their fears don't scream, they whisper. In the silence between sentences, in the eyes that look away when the room gets too quiet. If you listen closely, you'll hear them. 1, the fear of being forgotten. It's not just about being alone in a room, it's about being left out of life. They fear becoming a name in an old photo, a birthday someone forgets, a story that no one bothers to hear. They used to be the center of someone's world, a provider, a caregiver, a protector. Now they fear they're just background noise. Not seen, not heard, not remembered. 2, the fear of being a burden. They'll say, I'm fine, even when they're not. They'll downplay the pain, the struggle, the effort, because what they fear more than the fall is the look of inconvenience in your eyes when they ask for help. They fear becoming the reason you sigh, the excuse you use to cancel plans, the person who gets in the way. They once carried you on their hip, stayed up all night when you had a fever. Now they hope you'll have patience when they move a little slower. 3, the fear of losing their mind. There's no fear quite like this, the fear of forgetting your own life. Dementia doesn't just erase memory, it erodes identity. It's a slow vanishing of names, places, faces, until the world becomes unfamiliar. One day you're reading the paper, the next you're holding it upside down, unsure why you picked it up. And what hurts most? They know it's happening. I know I'm slipping. I can feel it. Some days I wake up and wonder how many pieces of me are already gone. 4, the fear of dying with regret. Time doesn't heal everything. Sometimes it just buries it. And when the end feels close, the past gets loud. They remember the arguments that never ended, the children they didn't hug enough, the words they didn't say because pride got in the way. They fear they'll leave without saying, I'm sorry, or worse, without hearing it from someone they once loved deeply. 5, the fear that no one will listen. They've lived through more than we can imagine. Love and loss, war and recovery, victories, betrayals, and quiet miracles. But the world moves too fast now. Everyone's looking down at a screen, and no one's looking them in the eyes. They sit with wisdom no one asks for, stories that die with them, because we never took the time to say, tell me about your life. And now let's go for the final. These fears are not weaknesses. They are human. They are honest, and they can be softened. Not with money, not with medicine, but with presence, with attention, with kindness that doesn't rush. Call them, visit them, ask the question you've been putting off. Hold their hand a little longer, because one day that moment won't be possible anymore. And when that day comes, you'll be so grateful you didn't wait. And if this message made you think of someone, share it with someone. Maybe it's the reminder they need too. Remember what we said at the beginning. You don't think about it until it's too late. Let this be the moment you do think about it while there's still time. This channel is here to speak for the ones we forget too often. If that matters to you, subscribe. We've got more stories worth hearing.